You'll be left in the dust unless you're stuck by ya. You're a sunflower. Love could never be too much, and you'll be left in the dust unless you're stuck by ya. You're a sunflower. You're a sunflower. So, it's been 5 years since Into the Spider-Verse became one of the biggest movies ever to come out.
And that's not even remotely an exaggeration of what the impact of Into the Spider-Verse has given us in the last 5 years.
It's an exaggeration of the box office, but you will get it. But we won't get into that.
Yeah.
But welcome to StillerBros at the Movies, where today we are going to talk about what might be one of the most impactful sequels to one of the most impactful superhero movies of the last 10 years, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
It says a lot about something that an animated movie from Sony, no less, the company that a year prior had put out the fucking Emoji Movie, became one of the biggest animated movies of all time.
And it's no exaggeration to say that the impact it had on animated cinema has been so incredibly gigantic that you couldn't possibly imagine a world in which this didn't exist anymore. It was a watershed moment for what theatrical animation could look like.
And the films that influenced it have not been small feats, with Mitchell's vs. the Machines and Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. Even Disney seems to be copying it with their next movie, Wish.
And through it all, we have got this incredible story. It was one thing for Into the Spider-Verse to be one of the most visually compelling animated movies of its time, but it was a completely different thing for it to be probably the best written superhero movie ever made.
Yeah, but it was able to condense such an impactful and emotional and amazingly action-packed story into a 90-minute movie, which makes the feat of this next movie all the more daunting that they are now having to make a sequel to it.
So basically what we've got here is a sequel in which we have to build off of the success of the first one while also not resting on their laurels. And if there's any group that could make this happen, it's the group that made Spider-Verse, because behind them is the production leaders of Phil Lord and Chris Miller, the guys who cinematically have done no wrong since they have started making real movies.
And they've had a pretty big year, and they have a pretty big year with this year with Cocaine Bear and with this, as well as the fact that Cologne High Season 2 has finally come out, and they have the After Party Season 2 coming later this year, and other stuff of theirs coming. The only thing they don't have coming up is a movie directed by them yet.
But through it all, we've got this next Spider-Verse movie, which promises to be even bigger than the first one, while also being pretty much the same as the first one in the respects that it needs to. Along for the ride, we have returning Shameik Moore, Haley Steinfeld, Jake Johnson, and Brian Tyree Henry, Yarma Tacone, and so many others, along with joining the cast Oscar Isaac, Andy Samberg, and so many more that we can't even possibly be believed to name them all, because the place is packed with spider people.
Yes, and taking the reins this time around, we have 3 directors who we actually know a little bit about this time around, unlike last time where we did not realize that Peter Ramsey had directed Rise of the Guardians, but not important. Instead, this time around we have the co-director and co-writer of Pixar's Soul from a couple years ago, Kemp Powers, production designer for the previous Spider-Verse movie, Justin K. Thompson, and director and producer for Legend of Korra and Avatar: The Last Airbender, as well as co-showrunner of Voltron Legendary Defender, Joaquim Dos Santos.
And for the record, we all really still like Legend of Korra. We rewatched it like a year and a half ago or so, and we still really like Legend of Korra. And obviously The Last Airbender is fantastic, and nothing can take that away. So Joaquim Dos Santos making his feature directorial debut big deal.
Yeah, especially with the fact that it is a Spider-Verse movie. But but we also have have David Callahan, who did Shang-Chi and Mortal Kombat, and The Expendables, doing the screenplay with Lord and Miller.
Is Daniel Pemberton back with the music?
He is indeed back for the music.
Awesome, because the music for the first one was one of the absolute best things about it, which is saying a lot in a movie where almost everything is the best thing about it. From the aforementioned animation and script to the little things, like the fact that it was a movie that unintentionally put the Stan Lee cameo at the point where it knew people would need it.
Yes, and we're ready for whatever this movie may end up being, because obviously we loved the original Spider-Verse. It is still, to this day, it has pretty much claimed its spot as the best Spider-Man movie, and it's kind of amazing to think that with that movie and with this movie, Spider-Man has just kind of risen above being a character from just Marvel and being a character that exists out in pop culture outside of the Marvel machine.
And it really shows how incredibly influential this movie was, that without it, we wouldn't have gotten No Way Home. I have no doubt about that. It took way too many story beats. It's verbatim from Into the Spider-Verse to essentially say, oh no, we didn't have it in mind when we were making it.
No, it may very well be the reason that the multiverse saga is that the next phases of Marvel are the multiverse saga, because Spider-Verse was such a huge success. Kevin Feige clearly looked at what was going on and was like, okay, bitch, we're gonna play, let's play.
And so we've got the next installment, and of course we've got more on the way. Beyond the Spider-Verse is set to come out
in a year.
To come out next year, and of course Haley Steinfeld has already been signed on for a sequel, for a female-centered spin-off, pretty much since the first one hit the theaters.
But right now, the director that they announced with that project is currently busy because she is making the next Avatar: The Last Airbender movie.
Woo! But still, this has been 5 years of waiting. This was supposed to come out last year, but production delays.
A lot of delays, reworking the story, COVID, all of this stuff that obviously slowed them down significantly.
But once again, it sounds like this movie is a lot of what we liked from the first movie, because a lot of people are saying that this is a visual masterpiece with the perfect heart to it. And I honestly can't wait to see what they have got in store for us. Other people we forgot to mention in our long listing of the cast, Jason Schwartzman comes in as one of the most interesting of Spidey's lesser-known villains, the Spot,
who we've known for a while just because of the Spider-Man animated. Holy shit, we saw it 20 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah, we've known this character for 20 years from the Spider-Man animated show from the 90s that we saw.
Going back into the real world for a second, Academy Award winner Daniel Kaluuya is also on hand as Spider-Punk, which was a weird casting choice. I thought at first. I thought for sure they were gonna cast an actual punk rock singer, but apparently they just decided on Daniel Kaluuya, and he seems to be doing well with the part from what we've heard.
But yeah, that's a lot of what's going on. We got a big star-studded cast. We got huge stuff going on. We're very excited to see what it goes on, where this is going to end up going.
Yeah, I don't know what else to say, especially since I'm thrown by that 20 years thing.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll just see you after the leap of faith. Bye.
Yeah, bye.
How is 9 months so long away? Feel like so long a wait right now?
I think we know why.
I know that sounds weird for anyone who's had a baby and been excited about it, but that was... I need more.
Yeah.
I need the it's not, I don't even feel angry like you took the rest of the movie from me. I just feel like I need this ending.
Yeah.
Because this was a full experience. Somehow they managed to cram everything they needed to into this movie without making it feel like an over-bloated mess.
Yeah. And it's really something that you can tell that this is the biggest crew of any animated movie ever, clocking in at over 1,000 people.
Because they said they were going to be smaller with this, but then they ended up breaking the record for biggest crew. In case you can't tell, I love this movie.
It is great. It is so great.
This had me hooked from second one, when it deliberately showed a completely different point of view from the original movie.
Yeah.
Because while the first Spider-Verse movie was very well established to be Miles Morales' origin story, this one is more an ensemble piece. It literally starts from a completely different perspective, completely different world of this. It just starts differently, and then it moves on. It's the best opening sequence I think it could possibly have. I hesitate to say it might be the best opening sequence of any Spider-Man movie ever, but it just might be up there. And
we can get into it now. The visuals on this movie they took everything that the first Spider-Verse movie did and cranked it up to 11.
I love the fact that every single other dimension is rendered in its own special animation style. Obviously, this is a thing they did in the first movie when they had literally every Spider-Man animated in their own unique style, but this time they're like popping people into different dimensions, and these dimensions are completely different from the originals and the people that are wandering around in them. We spend way more time in Gwen's dimension this time around, and I love the fact that it's very clearly stylized, like the cover art for all the Spider-Gwen storylines in paperback form.
Yeah. We also get to spend a lot of time with a lot of different Spider people. We get some amazing cameos and little Easter eggs and gags. It's like, obviously we get some of the people we've mentioned before. We have Issa Rae as Jessica Drew. We have a few kind of random comedy people like Mitchell vs. the Machine, the director of Mitchell vs. the Machine, Mike Rianda's in there, Taron Killam's in there.
And there's just so much, and I can't wait to see more when some of these guys can actually get focused on, because a lot of people get mixed in the shuffle, but it's also a case of you can just kind of point to a person in there and it's like, that's that one, there's that one, oh my god, that one. And some of them are just get focused, some of them don't, but it's also some of them don't, but it's just a case of, oh my god, look at all of this, look at all the cool stuff. I cannot wait until this movie comes out on digital, just so that some YouTuber can throw together a just giant compilation of, here is all the Spider-Men, and here is every reference to a Spider-Man storyline from years and years back.
Yeah, it's actually amazing the stuff this links up to.
Like, it's no secret that this is a big one. This links to every Spider-Man universe that exists, and
we're not gonna talk in depth about it because
we're not gonna spoil this stuff, but it's just but the way they play everything is just perfect, and whether it be the littlest cameo or just the thing that just would feel the weirdest thing, it's the weirdest stuff that they bring in, and it's amazing. But I just really liked what they did with this, and it's amazing. And there's a sequence in here that I think rivals the Leap of Faith sequence from the first movie.
Yeah.
Just the intensity, the power, and Daniel Pemberton's score, while using the themes from the Leap of Faith, the sequence in the original movie, is just brilliantly designed to to pay to call back to the hack while also building off of it to make something new.
Yeah, Shamik Moore is huge in this one. He has gone through a lot of different changes with Miles, and Miles goes through a lot of changes throughout the movie, and it's gonna be insane to think where his story will end up when we get to Beyond the Spider-Verse.
And like I said, this is more an ensemble movie, so Haley Steinfeld gets a lot more development in this. In fact, it's basically her movie.
For a lot of it, we do focus on Gwen, which I love because I love the character of Spider-Gwen, and I've loved Haley Steinfeld as the character, and I can't wait to see more of her, especially with how this movie ends up with her.
Speaking of which, this movie is definitely part one of a two-part story. So if you're going in and you suddenly, and the ending comes and you have to feel like you need to react like that's a shock, it's part one, remember. Originally this was going to be Across the Spider-Verse parts 1 and 2, but then they changed the second half like they did with the last two Avengers movies.
But it was kind of fun to be sitting in the theater and everybody is like, what? No!
The girls next to me, who it felt like they recognized every single Easter egg and Spider-Man and everything like that, and they were talking amongst themselves, and they were whispering amongst themselves every time something amazing happened. They did not seem to understand that where the part 2 cutoff was going to go, so they reacted in the biggest way possible, and I just laughed because it was just out of shock that they seemed to be like, what?
It is entertaining to see. It is just one of those entertaining things where you see someone react to
where you feel like you're prepared for something, but then everybody else in the room seems to be like, wait, what just happened?
Yeah, and the fact that immediately, the second the credits started, everybody was that theater was loud with people talking about what the hell just happened and where the hell we're going.
And the occasional smattering of applause. But this movie's ending is very much the thing that people will probably be talking about
for a very long time.
9 months.
9 months. Well, like over 9 months, because it's the end of March, because we have to wait until, as of recording, it's like March 24th, 2024.
But this is just gonna be...
It's gonna be a hard wait. Hopefully we don't have to wait hopefully they don't end up having to push the release date again and we have to wait even longer.
But I just love everything about this movie. The cast is fantastic. Oscar Isaac creates this incredible performance of pain and longing and just this whole, I don't want to be an asshole, but his circumstances are forcing me to be an asshole.
It is just a different Oscar Isaac character than any other Oscar Isaac character, which it's hard to say because there's no two Oscar Isaac performances that are the same.
But then again, there's also no one who has to play the complicated, tortured figure better than Oscar Isaac in some cases.
Yes.
While it feels like some characters are just kind of kind of a little pushed to the wayside, probably just to be like, I'm going to have more to do in the sequel. Other characters get really brought on. Like Miles's parents get a lot more character development in this movie, and it's just so amazing to see these characters going through this. Another thing I love about this movie is just the fact that it stops and it's not afraid to actually just have these characters sit and talk.
Yeah. No
frenetic action. Sometimes not even any jokes. Just sometimes the characters are just sitting there and they're talking about stuff. And that is a bold move for an action comedy.
Especially an animated one that is more geared towards kids, which animation isn't a medium for everyone. We are advocates of that, obviously.
But it's also the fact that this movie is specifically geared for a family audience. So it's a bold move to be like, okay, we're not gonna make every scene just like everybody's bouncing off the walls or dancing to Pitbull songs or anything like that. We're gonna have characters sit back and talk at some point about what's going on at some points.
It's definitely a more mature movie.
Especially when most action movies that come out nowadays will barely do that.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those things that shows just how strong of writers Lord and Miller are, because they'll be confident enough to let something like that just happen. And also kudos to the directors for being confident enough in their own skills and the skills of their animation teams for knowing that they can do that they can just stop for a minute and then contribute. And then, of course, we go back to the kinetic pacing of the action scenes, which you would think, if they weren't prepped for that would just be a mess, and it would make the pacing feel all over the place, where it's like, here's the slow talking part, and here's Spider-Man swinging all over the multiverse and going insane and punching people in the face, and now we go back to the talking thing. And now we're back to the action sequence! But this movie is so well paced that it goes from a slow, deliberate, emotional scene to a perfectly paced action sequence.
And part of that is probably Joaquin DeSantos' influence of just the fact that he's worked on some of the biggest action comedy stuff on television that also had a lot of very small intimate moments, as well as Kemp Powers, who, coming from a writing background, specifically plays.
The fact that this trio of directors is so perfectly balanced. You've got an artist, a writer, and a guy who's basically done both.
Yeah.
Which is just the perfect. Which, if you're gonna have three directors, you better be balanced like that.
We got one who is more of an animation, who is more a visual storyteller. We have one who is more a writer and such. And then, of course, we have a guy who has who is the big animation industry insider, who has worked in television animation for decades. Like, he worked on Justice League Unlimited, and he did some storyboard work on Invincible.
And so, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is a perfect sequel to its predecessor. It's going. I don't want to be the guy who's like, this is going to win the animation Oscar, like it's the movie before it. But my God, is this just another piece of the puzzle for how much great this team can be when they really put their effort into it?
What, I don't know if it's better than the original, just because the original was so great.
I mean, yeah, at this point, very few things can top the original, but this is another fantastic movie. I loved the hell out of this movie. I can't wait for the next one.
Let's see it. Yep, we just gotta now wait about 9 months to see, at least for now, to see if they're able to stick the landing on this one.
And hopefully they will. And so I think that's it for right now.
Yep.
Be sure to like this video, subscribe to this channel, leave in the comments what you thought of Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. And don't forget to tune in next time when it's time to transform and roll out. But whatever. Bye.
Bye.